Anthony brought up the point that it took so many attempts to successfully clone Dolly. It took, I believe, 227 failed attempts before one full-grown sheep could be born. However, this is really a very poor reason not to continue with research, because look at a similar scientific breakthrough, the first airplane. There were at least 200 years of failed attempts to make an airplane before the Wright brothers got it right. So 200 failed attempts to clone something is really an insignificant number compared to what it could be. He also brought up the point that an embryo becomes a human at the moment that it's conceived. Well, the way that cloning is done, it sort of bypasses the whole conception point entirely. Conception is when the egg and sperm meet up and their chromosomes are combined and it starts to develop. This entirely bypasses that because there's only DNA from one party involved. So there's really no conception, you just get an embryo. Jennifer brought up the point about Bush's bioethical council to rule on the morality of human cloning, which is good in theory, but in practice, the entirety of the council was handpicked by Bush, and they are unanimously against human cloning in any form. So this council was chosen because it is against human cloning, so they're in power and their opinion matters, but they're a very poor choice or they're a very poor group to rule on the morality of the subject. And point Anthony brought up that funding human cloning won't bring any scientific advancement to breakthrough, that's just a laughable point, because additional funding and research would, of course, bring more breakthroughs. You don't continue researching something, give it more money, more people, more time, and not receive any results. I suppose if the scientists were incredibly incompetent, that could happen. But that is almost impossible to come about. They say it's too expensive to clone humans, but again, I'll point you to the example I gave of why Dolly was a success rather than the end of a string of failures. The first of anything is going to be more expensive. It costs a lot more time and effort to develop something than to keep producing it. The first car, the first airplane, the first organ transplant, all these things had huge numbers of failures before their first success. But now they're all widely accepted, widely used, and their practice is very common. So really, if they received more funding and more research, then the only possible result would be that it would become cheaper, easier, more efficient, and that it would just become more effective to clone humans or organs.